Alexander was struggling in life. I decided to part ways with him. 5 years later, he starred in a movie that became a huge success and even won the title of Best Actor. Alexander threw a pile of cash in front of me and asked me to be his personal assistant, exclusively serving him. Every day, many beautiful girls approached Alexander. He never turned them down. They were being affectionate in front, while I was behind helping with bags and taking photos. I was just doing my job as an assistant seriously. I got paid to do the job. I never thought about anything else. Alexander suddenly got angry. He tightly grabbed my chin and shouted loudly, "Isabella, can't you just admit that you regret it?" Seeing his red eyes, I felt a pang in my nose. He didn't understand. No matter if I regret it or not, I cannot escape death, love, and all that. What's more important than being alive? I had just become Alexander's assistant. Sophia, the Best Actress, has developed a dissatisfaction with me. The two of them are recognized as the perfect couple on screen. They have a close relationship both on and off stage. Everyone says so. The once charming Alexander has become devoted because of love. He has turned into a good family man. My colleagues remind me to be careful in my work, because Sophia seems to not like me very much. I sighed. I recalled the first time I met Sophia. That day, the sun was particularly strong. It was so hot that it was hard to breathe. During the filming process, Alexander asked me to buy coffee from dozens of kilometers away. When I returned, my clothes were already soaked with sweat. My hair was also wet and greasy. At that moment, Sophia had finished her scenes early. She walked towards me in high heels, clicking her heels as she approached me. She looked me up and down with a disdainful expression. After a while, Sophia scoffed dismissively and said, "I thought it was some great beauty, someone who could make Alexander specifically choose them as a personal assistant. Looks like this, still dare to come out and meet people." I pretended not to hear. I quietly moved a couple of steps to the side. These years have been a struggle against illness. I've lost so much weight that I'm just skin and bones. I look completely listless. The other person raised their voice. "I'm talking to you, did you hear me?" Seeing that I had no reaction, Sophia raised her voice. Her tone was stern. She touched up her foundation and lipstick. She took out her phone, found a suitable angle, took a selfie. Sophia in the photo. Her makeup looks beautiful. Her complexion is also good. I'm holding a bunch of things in my hands, bending over, standing in the corner. The staff were just about to run over to hold an umbrella for Sophia against the sun, but she directly refused. Sophia raised an eyebrow, pointed at me and said, "That person, Isabella, come over and hold the umbrella for me." The people nearby looked at me with sympathetic eyes. I was holding a cup of coffee. I unconsciously tightened my grip on the cup. I quietly refused. I'm Alexander's assistant. I only follow his instructions. Sophia snatched the umbrella from the staff's hands. She threw it at me fiercely. The large and heavy long-handled umbrella flew towards me suddenly. The tip of the umbrella brushed past my eyelid. It hurt so much that I couldn't open my eyes for a while. The crew members quickly came over to mediate. A few people surrounded Sophia. They kept flattering her. "Sophia, please don't be angry. It's just a small assistant. It's not worth your anger." "That's right. What is she compared to you? She doesn't even deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as you." I saw the photo Sophia just posted. "It's really beautiful. That assistant can't compare to you at all. It looks quite ordinary." Everyone is talking back and forth, making Sophia laugh happily. The stage manager noticed the relaxed atmosphere and gestured. He wanted Sophia to go back to the hotel to rest first, but Sophia said, "No, I want to sit here and wait for Alexander to finish shooting, then go back with him." In the end, everyone pushed me to the front to hold an umbrella for Sophia against the sun, with one hand holding coffee and the other hand holding a large sunshade umbrella. I stood like this for an hour. Sophia has very strict requirements. I must find the right angle and hold my hand up high. As soon as I relaxed, she said I wasn't serious about my work and that I let her get sunburned. "Isabella, what kind of coffee are you holding?" Sophia was lying on the rocking chair and asked with a smile, "Is it the freshly brewed hand-drip Americano that Alexander specially bought for me?" Sophia's eyes lit up. She smiled widely with joy. Sophia said with a smile, "I just casually mentioned that I liked the coffee from that shop. I didn't expect Alexander to be so thoughtful." She reached out to grab the coffee. I sidestepped to avoid her. After missing her grab, Sophia's expression immediately turned ugly. She said coldly, "Isabella, What are you so proud of? You need to understand your current situation. Don't think about unrealistic things. Also, take a look at whether you're qualified. The sun made my throat dry. Anger surged up. I shot back directly. You're so worried that Alexander will be taken away by me. It seems you don't have much confidence in yourself either. If you have the ability, go talk to Alexander yourself. Let him fire me. I really don't care about being his personal assistant. Sure enough, when I particularly emphasized the word personal, Sophia's expression immediately darkened. She stood up. She raised her hand as if to hit me. Just then, Alexander finished filming. He walked slowly towards us. Sophia's expression changed instantly. She turned her head. She put away her fierce expression from before. She greeted him with a smile. Alexander, why are you only finishing now? I've been waiting for you for a long time. If you didn't come soon, I would have been dehydrated from the sun. No wonder you're the best actress. The transition of emotions and voice is seamless. I quietly put away the umbrella. I quickly rubbed my sore arms. Alexander gladly accepted Sophia's hug. He affectionately rubbed her nose. Fool, why didn't you wait for me at the hotel? Sophia covered her face. She said shyly, it's just that I wanted to spend more time with you. The two of them were very close, even more affectionate than in the play. I'm feeling a bit sad. Alexander and Sophia, they must have really developed feelings. At first, I arrogantly thought, he frequently changed girlfriends to make me uncomfortable, until Sophia appeared. Everyone thinks they are a good match. They are all discussing it. Every time Alexander buys gifts or transfers money to Sophia, he has to show off in front of me. He says some people only care about money. They despise the poor and love the rich. Who knows? To save a little, they end up suffering a great loss. I smiled bitterly and nodded. In everyone's eyes, I abandoned Alexander just because he was poor. After he became successful, I shamelessly returned to his side. I was even willing to do anything for him, just to stay by his side. Sophia gently stood on her tiptoes. She whispered a few words in Alexander's ear. Alexander thought for a moment, called me over, and said, I hire you. It's not just for me alone in the future when I'm not around. Sophia will tell you what to do. You need to take it seriously as well. After hearing Alexander's words, I felt particularly uncomfortable inside. Sophia hid behind Alexander. She looked at me smugly, silently mouthed that I'm ugly. I held back my anger. I responded loudly, Alexander, you want me to do 2 jobs for 1 salary. What a clever calculation. Alexander was closely watching my reaction. After hearing what I said, he disdainfully said one sentence, all you care about is money. How shameless. Give her double the salary. Take good care of Sophia. He was just about to transfer money to me via his phone, suddenly called by the director to discuss something. Seeing that Alexander couldn't complete the transfer, I felt a bit disappointed inside. This is my medical expense for next week. This is my lifeline money. After Alexander walked away, Sophia was laughing uncontrollably. She said to Isabella, you saw that, right? You're just a well-behaved dog kept by Alexander. As long as there are some benefits, you'll obediently do what you're told. Sophia approached Isabella and said with a smile, come on, Isabella, call out a couple of times so I can hear. Then, she reached out to take the coffee from my hand. Actually, Alexander might not really want coffee. He's just deliberately making things difficult for me. That's why he chose such a far place to buy coffee. Logically speaking, it wouldn't be a big deal to give the coffee to Sophia, but I'm just stubborn. No matter what, I refused to hand the coffee over to her. We started to push each other. It was a bit awkward. During the argument, Sophia suddenly showed me a strange smile. Then with a thud, she fell to the ground and began to cry. Sophia lay on the ground, and tears instantly flowed out. She cried so hard that she couldn't catch her breath. The crew rushed over to check on her. The director was worried about the leading actress getting hurt. He wasn't in the mood to discuss things with Alexander anymore. He grabbed him and hurried over. What happened? Who laid a hand on Sophia? Alexander pushed through the crowd. He shouted loudly. Everyone fell silent. All eyes were fixated on me. I took a few deep breaths. I calmly started to explain. It wasn't me who pushed her, but seeing Sophia hurt made me quite pleased. The onlookers whispered. They said I was really young and impulsive, that I dared to say anything. Sophia took the opportunity to cover her face. She sobbed as she said, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Isabella, I just heard that you used to be Alexander's girlfriend, but however, you left him because Alexander had no money back then. That's why you chose to leave him, right? Now Alexander is successful in his career. You came back wanting to get back together with him. Alexander won't agree. You just turned the spearhead towards me. You're really something. Sophia, just a few simple words, made me out to be a gold digger, those who were just spectators around. Now all look at me with doubtful eyes. Someone is whispering. I didn't expect Isabella to be this kind of person. I used to think she was diligent and down to earth. She seemed like a good girl. You can't judge a person by their appearance. I used to like her quite a bit. If I hadn't discovered her true character today, I would have thought about pursuing her. What a blessing. Isabella saw her ex-boyfriend has money and came back to intervene in someone else's relationship. She really doesn't care about face at all. Sophia's manager is leading the way. Everyone is pointing fingers at me. There are whispers everywhere. I was exposed to the scorching sun for a long time, plus this series of troubles. I feel dizzy. I can barely stand. I looked at Alexander with a glimmer of hope, hoping he would step up and say something fair. However, Alexander just gently held Sophia. He turned his head away, not even looking at me once. My face suddenly felt hot, love and indifference. The difference is too vast. The phone beeped twice. It was a payment reminder from the hospital. I hesitated for a moment. In the end, I lowered my head. I mustered the courage to say, Alexander, could you advance me 3 months' salary? The air suddenly went quiet. Sigh, I was still a bit skeptical, but now seeing it, Isabella really has no shame. Yeah, she just offended the person Alexander likes. How can she still have the nerve to ask for money? If I were her, I would have lost all face to stay here. The mocking voices around me grew louder. I gritted my teeth. My fists were clenched tightly. My nails dug into my flesh. Blood started to seep out. When Alexander hired me, we agreed on the terms. He hoped I could be on standby at all times, to serve him to the best of my ability, and I, only for that generous salary. One person pays. One person puts in the effort. Money and goods are settled. No one owes anyone. In the past few months, Alinder often gave me hundreds or thousands as rewards. After all, his current income is only about 10 to 18,000 a month. Even the interest on his savings doesn't match that. But this time, in front of a large crowd, Alinder's attitude was icy. He said to Isabella, Isabella, if you want to borrow money, you need to correct your attitude first. Sophia leaned softly against Alexander's chest. She looked up at him with a pitiful expression. Alexander gently wiped away her tears. Then he coldly gave me an order. Isabella, Sophia from my family has been wronged. I must seek justice for her. You kneel and apologize to Sophia. I'll consider this 50,000 as charity for you. 50,000. I'm very familiar with that number. It was the amount I mentioned when I broke up with Alexander. That was the number I referred to. A penniless loser who can't even come up with 50,000. What gives you the right to say you can take care of me for a lifetime? I still remember. Alexander's eyes turned red at that time. He pleaded desperately. He begged me not to leave. He said he would work all day, washing dishes, delivering packages and takeout. He would soon save up 50,000. At that time, I seemed to have replied dismissively, Alexander, don't be so naive. Even if you kneel and beg, I still can't scrape together 50,000 yuan. As expected, a person shouldn't do bad things. Right now, the repercussions of this matter ultimately came back to me. The flashlights kept flashing. They captured my pale face. This is the first time in my memory, Alexander in front of others. Money has struck at my self-esteem. Maybe it's because everything went too smoothly before. Or maybe I set my expectations too high. Me, a person with nothing to offer. Why should I be able to make money easily? My tongue was cut by my teeth. The taste of blood brought me back to reality. I watched Alexander and Sophia snuggled together. Suddenly, I let go. As long as I don't plan to keep living, then I don't need to worry about medical expenses anymore. It's really ironic. I've held on for so long. I thought I would disregard my dignity for money, to be humble and submissive. It was Alexander's indifference and Sophia's smug look that woke me up. I don't know, after I leave this world, when Alexander learns the truth, will he feel sad? Will he be filled with regret because of today's actions, his heart full of remorse? I try hard to hold back my tears. I turned around and hurried back to the hotel. The entourage of the star. If the relationship is decent, they usually stay at the same hotel as the star. Only ordinary staff stay in standard rooms. The facilities are a bit simpler. As for me, as Alexander's personally selected personal assistant, I am responsible for all aspects of his daily life. Perhaps Alexander hates me too much. He deliberately arranged for me to stay in the cheapest and dirtiest little inn far from the hotel, in the sweltering heat. The room has no air conditioning. It's stuffy and hot, yet I feel cold all over. Feeling uncomfortable, I curl up into a ball, like a little kitten. I lick my wounds alone. Suddenly, my nosebleed started. It soaked a large area. I stained the pillow and sheets red. I stared at the ceiling in a daze. Past memories floated in my mind like a movie. Alexander has always wanted to be an actor. Classmates always mocked him. They said he had neither money nor background. Even if he looked pretty good, he was destined to be a mere extra. Every time I heard such words, I would be furious. I would rush up and fight with those who spoke rudely. You're the extra. Your whole family are extras. I often got into fights. Fewer dared to mock Alexander. Alexander took me to the infirmary. He gently helped me fix my messy hair with concern. His eyes shimmered with tears. Wow, Alexander, your eyes are sparkling. I worried he might really cry. I quickly changed the subject. Alexander smiled. He gently kissed my forehead. My heart raced instantly. My face turned red all the way to the roots of my ears. Stars. Where would the stars come from in broad daylight? Alexander asked me in a low voice. I lowered my head shyly. I quietly said he didn't understand. You have me in your eyes. I'm like your star. Gravity draws us together, never to be separated. I suddenly had a brilliant idea. I casually made up a reason. This time, Alexander's face turned red on my birthday. Alexander took me to the amusement park. The neon lights flickered all night. He was like a loyal knight, kneeling on one knee. He gently kissed the back of my hand. My little star. Happy birthday. After saying that, he took out a plush toy from behind. I was still wondering. Could it be a beautiful pentagram? Alexander held back a laugh. He pulled out a gorilla-shaped plush toy. I angrily chased after him. I shouted, "You stop right there. I'm tired from running." I shouted in urgency and laughter. As you wish. Alexander turned around. He seriously put a silver necklace around my neck. The cold sensation left me momentarily stunned. He said softly, "Happy birthday, my little princess." I pretended to scold him for spending money recklessly, but inside I felt sweet and happy. Actually, I had known for a long time. These days, Alexander had been working hard behind my back, day and night, earning money. He treats me very well, and I treat him well too. I quietly made plans for him under the Ferris wheel. We made promises to each other. He is the knight. I am the princess. We are destined to be together for a lifetime, perhaps because the dream was too beautiful. I groggily called Alexander. My birthday is coming soon. Where is my knight to protect me? There has been no response on the other end of the phone. I thought I was dreaming. I hung up the phone in a daze. I fell asleep again, until the next morning. The sunlight streamed into the room. Only then did I completely wake up. As soon as I opened my eyes, I found Alexander quietly sitting beside me. I sat up suddenly. I shouted loudly, "How did you get in? Who let you in?" Alexander is busy all year round. He often stays in 5-star hotels. At first, he would arrange for me to stay in the cheapest standard room at the hotel. After Sophia arrived, I was kicked out. I opened my phone app to find nearby accommodations. Alexander told me to choose the cheapest place. It didn't matter how far it was, yet he generously booked a presidential suite for Sophia, even arranging meals to the highest standard. Alexander's pleasure. He just likes to see me jealous and angry. This kind of small inn. He wouldn't normally come here at all. I thought to myself, today is truly a day when the sun rises in the west. Alexander coughed twice. His voice was a bit hoarse. He asked, "You live in a place like this?" I got up, got dressed, and washed up. I felt a bit displeased. What do you mean by this kind of place? Isn't this the kind of small inn with bugs and rats that you wanted? This is a rule you set for yourself. Now you're pretending to be a good person. Today's Alexander is a bit unusual. Wherever I go, he follows. He kept looking at me with eager eyes. I felt somewhat impatient. I reached out and pushed him. "Just say what you want to say. Don't block my view here." Alexander was silent for a moment. He murmured quietly, "It's not what you told me." He suddenly grabbed my waist tightly with both hands. I just called out, "Why have you lost so much weight? Have you not been eating well?" Alexander suddenly became different. It feels like he has returned to his gentle self from before. He seems so considerate. Maybe he just came out of Sophia's gentle atmosphere. He hasn't adjusted yet. I quickly walked to the door. I opened the door. I made a gesture for him to leave. Alexander stood still. He seemed to have something to say but didn't speak up. He sighed. He took out a necklace from the chair, although it's also silver. I recognized it at a glance from the logo on the tag. This is an expensive platinum necklace. Being wealthy is nice. In the past, I had to brave the wind and snow. I had to work hard just to barely afford a silver necklace. Now, giving an assistant a platinum necklace is effortless. In comparison, I feel a bit uncomfortable inside. I really feel useless. I can't make big money. That's why life is so difficult. The princess has lost her support. She can only wander alone, often going hungry. Her clothes are not warm enough. My night, when he made me kneel and apologize to Sophia, and when he humiliated me with $50,000, he completely disappeared. I no longer want that necklace. I don't want any night anymore. I don't want Alexander anymore either. The more I think about it, the more aggrieved I feel. In a fit of anger, I threw the necklace into the toilet. Before Alexander and I could react, I impulsively pressed the flush button. In an instant, the entire scene was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Alexander was furious. He grabbed my shoulders and shook me hard. "Isabella, are you tired of living?" I also got excited. I got excited too. I responded without backing down. "Come on. My neck is right here. If you want to choke me, go ahead. Just be decisive about it. You said I have no shame. Look at you coming back to beg for reconciliation now that you have money. And look at you now. What are you doing again? Alexander, clearly it's you who can't let me go. You're the one who's obsessed. When emotions run high, I speak without thinking, spouting a bunch of hurtful words. Each sentence pierces the heart like a knife. Alexander is breathing heavily. His grip on my hand has tightened. I feel like my shoulder is about to be crushed. It hurts so much I almost cried. I didn't have time to react. He pushed me against the door panel. Then he kissed me fiercely. Yesterday, I accidentally bit my lower lip. The wound hasn't healed yet. Today, Alexander reopened the wound again. The pain makes me tremble all over. I want to stop his uncontrollable behavior. Both of our mouths taste of blood. I suddenly woke up. I quickly turned my head away. Alexander completely ignored what I was saying. He directly bit my collarbone. He wanted to leave a mark. His hands were moving restlessly. He kept trying to reach inside my clothes. A warm breath brushed my ear. It made me feel a bit uneasy. "Isabella, can't you say something nice? Even just an apology would be fine. If you just say you're sorry, I will forgive you. You want money? I will give it to you right away. Any amount is fine. As long as you bow your head, apologize to me." I felt a bit shaken inside, but reason kept me alert, taking advantage of Alexander not paying attention. I forcefully dodged his foot, stepping on mine. Alexander cried out in pain. He let go of me. We were too agitated just now. As a result, our mouths were covered in blood. Fortunately, the doctor said that leukemia is usually not transmitted through blood. It's not an infectious disease, but I still don't dare to take that little risk. I took Alexander to the bathroom. He looked bewildered as he let me lead. There was a hint of expectation in his eyes. I turned on the faucet. I rinsed my mouth seriously several times. Then I gestured for him to do the same. Alexander's expression immediately darkened. "I let you look down on me like this and kiss me. You feel so disgusted that you need to rinse your mouth." The light in Alexander's eyes instantly disappeared. He seemed particularly cold. I hesitated for a moment. I didn't explain. He sneered and said, "Isabella, you really are something. Do you think I value someone like you who only cares about money? Don't think I can't live without you." Alexander snatched the cup from me. He rinsed his mouth more carefully than I did. The bathroom light was cold and desolate. Even in the scorching summer, there's a hint of coolness. After tidying up, Alexander returned to his cold attitude towards strangers. We looked at each other. No words were spoken. At that moment, there was a knock at the door. Alexander said coldly, "A man knocking at the door so early. Isabella seems to be quite popular. However, I'm not sure who is at the door. On what basis does he assume it's a man outside?" I shot Alexander a glare, turned around to open the door. Outside the door, Sophia looked furious. Her eyes kept darting into the room. Inside, Alexander's footsteps could be heard. Sophia immediately said a few harsh words. She pushed me aside and rushed in. I shrugged. She just keeps repeating those words every day, like shameless gold digger and the like. There's nothing new about it. It's really utterly boring. As I turned to go back inside, Sophia is at it again with her signature 3-second tears. She said through her tears, "Alexander, what are you doing here? I couldn't find you. I was really worried. They were all lovey-dovey, like they were acting in a drama in my room. Sophia spoke with a choked voice, expressing her grievances. Last night at midnight, someone suddenly knocked on my door. I was scared to death. Alexander wasn't by my side. I had no idea what to do, and I didn't know who to ask for help. What if a bad person breaks in? I might never see Alexander again. I almost laughed out loud. The security at a 5-star hotel is no joke. Alexander isn't stupid either. He saw through it but didn't call her out. Instead, he patiently comforted Sophia. I stood by, feeling like an extra. After waiting for a while, I really couldn't stand Sophia's pretentious voice anymore. I directly asked her to leave. Alexander had no expression. He glanced at me a few times. I wonder what he is thinking. Sophia stopped crying immediately. She leaned her head on Alexander's shoulder. She said in a spoiled tone, "The air here is dirty and foul. This is truly no place for humans. Alexander, we need to leave quickly. We have a kissing scene to shoot this morning." Speaking of the kissing scene, Sophia looked at me proudly. Alexander remained silent. He just looked at me thoughtfully. He asked, "Isabella, are you really not going to take the 50,000? Just kneel once, and you can get 50,000. You love money so much. Wouldn't you be tempted? Sometimes I really want to see what you're thinking." When Alexander was just talking to me, Sophia still looked unhappy, but after hearing what he said, Sophia smiled widely. "Isabella, get down on your knees. This is a rare opportunity. Don't you love money the most? This is 50,000 yuan, Sophia said with a smile. If you bow your head again, I can also give you 50,000. After saying that, she picked up her phone and started recording. She wanted to capture this scene that made her happy. I grabbed a chair, waving it around randomly to drive people away. Sophia was scared and panicked. She screamed loudly, pulling Alexander and running outside. As they were leaving, Alexander gave an awkward smile. "You'd better stay this tough. Don't come back regretting it, asking me for help." After they had completely left, I was completely exhausted. I just leaned against the wall and sat on the ground, gasping for breath. Alexander has a poor memory. He forgot that day he won the Best Actor award. I secretly ran to the backstage of the awards to find him, to apologize to him. At that time, my parents had died in a car accident. It also caused others to get hurt. The family incurred a huge debt. It nearly drained our savings. In just one day, I lost my parents, and I also lost my home. I'm both sad and heartbroken. My heart is filled with contradictions. I want to end my life, yet also want to keep living. At that moment, I saw Alexander thriving on TV. He made a lot of money, I told myself. It's not shameful to seek my knight. If Alexander still loves me, we could work hard together, to actively treat and wait for a suitable bone marrow match. But unexpectedly, at the first glance of our reunion backstage at the awards, Alexander mocked me. "Oh, you're back. How do you think I would still accept you?" From that moment on, my fantasies were completely shattered. To survive, I had to accept the assistant job that Alexander offered me, making money on one side, living on the other side, and still being able to see the person I like. That's actually quite happy. After meeting again, I let go of my pride. I repeatedly tried to please Alexander and admit my mistakes. I said, "It was my fault. Can you forgive me? The words you said before, do they still count now?" Upon hearing this, Alexander's tone immediately softened. He softly said, "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you." He walked closer to her, trying to soothe her emotions. He called over our old friends to let them see my current predicament. Surrounded by people we used to know, they were all laughing at me, claiming I had given up my dignity for money. My frail, haggard, and disheveled photos quickly spread on social media. Every time there's a gathering, when everyone can't find a topic to talk about, they always bring up my name to make fun of me. Time passes day by day. Alexander is no longer a knight in my heart. He's just a boss who is harsh and unkind to his subordinates. No, he's only unkind to me. What are you thinking? Quick, kneel down, Sophia shouted impatiently. It interrupted my thoughts. I smiled slightly, with my arms crossed, leaning against the door frame. I tilted my head and asked her, "Why do you have to compete with me, Alexander? You have to admit, you still can't let go of me in your heart." As soon as those words left my mouth, Alexander's body clearly stiffened for a moment. He maintained a serious expression. Not a word was spoken. Sophia, beside me, angrily scolded me for not being clear-headed. She said I was talking nonsense. I stepped forward, my eyes fixed on Alexander. A good horse doesn't turn back to graze. I have already given up, but Alexander is still entangled. Isn't that a bit excessive? Bang. Alexander punched beside my ear. The punch's wind blew my loose hair around my ear. He stared at me. Suddenly, he smiled. That smile hid an indescribable emotion. He said, "You have quite a bit of courage. Isabella, from today on, don't think you can get a penny from me. I'll see about that. When there's no food to eat, how tough can you really be?" Not long after, the rumors about Alexander spread like wildfire. The relationship between the leading actor and actress hit a snag. The reason was third-party interference. The leading actor's ex-girlfriend approached him, which led him to make a mistake. Sophia completely outshone the third party Isabella in looks and temperament. Public opinion suddenly erupted, no matter how the reporters pressed. Alexander remained silent on Sophia's side. She couldn't grasp Alexander's thoughts, just keep crying nonstop, teardrops like beads strung on a broken thread. It makes people feel heartbroken. I went from an inconspicuous little assistant, suddenly became the center of everyone's attention. Reporters and social media, people guard the entrance of my hotel all day. As soon as I show up, someone online will immediately start a live stream. These people wouldn't dare to ask sharp questions to the best actors, but they are completely unrestrained with me. A burly man holds his phone almost touching my face. He has a shiny, oily face. He asked with an unfriendly tone, "When you were dating Alexander a few years ago, what was the extent of your relationship with your current state? What gives you the right to compare with the best actress Sophia?" I wanted to smash his phone on the ground, but I can't afford to pay for it, so I had to endure it. A few excited fans rushed over. They slapped me several times. "You dare to ruin the relationship between my Sophia and Alexander. I won't let you go." The sudden slap left me dizzy and disoriented. I took a few deep breaths. I leaned against the pillar. I tried hard to stay awake. The few fans saw my pale face. They were so scared that they stepped back a few paces. No matter what I did, it's not up to you irrelevant people to judge. Girls, being a fan should have some limits. This is too crazy. You think you deserve the parents who worked hard to raise you, even though I was on the verge of collapsing. I still smiled and retorted a few words. The few fans listened. The anger that had been suppressed suddenly flared up again. They rushed forward and tightly grabbed my arm. "What right do you have to point fingers at us? You only care about money, and you still think you are justified." I really look down on those who only recognize money. A girl took the lead and walked over. She grabbed my neck and said coldly, "If I see you clinging to Alexander again, you will be in for it." A bracelet worn on the left hand by a girl. It feels a bit familiar to me. I was momentarily stunned. I replied with a smile, "You were sent by Sophia, right? After all, she is an award-winning actress. Her methods are much more powerful than mine. She always likes to use kids to achieve her goals." The girl widened her eyes in surprise. The grip on my arm loosened a bit. I hurriedly defended myself. "Don't say that recklessly. Sophia is the best person in our family." Original text. We just can't stand your unscrupulous behavior of seeking wealthy partners." That's why we stepped forward, meeting my mocking gaze. The more the girl explained, the more flaws appeared. Angry and embarrassed, she raised her hand to hit someone again. "We're right. We just can't tolerate your unscrupulous behavior for money. That's why we stood up to stop it." She saw the mocking look in my eyes. The more we talked, the more chaotic it got. Angrily, she raised her hand, wanting to strike. I blocked the attack. I pushed them to the side. "You are all so young, and yet you're fighting. You want to end up in the police station." A few of them exchanged glances. They seemed to want to continue the confrontation. I took out my phone. I pressed 911. My finger hovered over the call button. I watched their reactions with interest. Regarding the assault, a group of self-media reporters were live streaming from behind. I'm not worried about lacking evidence. The girls still wanted to stir up trouble, but suddenly they widened their eyes in terror. "What's wrong with you?" I found a piece of glass. I saw blood continuously flowing from my nose and mouth in the mirror. I looked terrifying, like a ghost. The paparazzi and live streamers quietly stepped back a few paces. "Keep your distance from me. What's the matter? Do you still want to keep causing trouble? Anyway, I won't be around much longer. Bring a few people to keep me company, so I won't be too lonely." In the shot, my mouth is full of blood. I laugh out loud. The scene looks really frightening. No one wants to stir up trouble. Everyone left in a hurry. I casually wiped the blood off my nose with my sleeve. My feelings are particularly complicated. The chatter outside is getting louder. It has already affected the normal work of the crew. Every day, The area outside the fence is packed with onlookers. Alexander had no choice. He had to issue a statement. Isabella and I used to be a couple. We broke up amicably 5 years ago. When we met again, I found out she didn't have a penny to her name. I felt sorry for her, so I let her be my assistant. This way she can at least have some income. She won't go hungry under this statement. Everyone is speaking up for Alexander. Many people praise him for being magnanimous. He was used like this by his ex-girlfriend, yet he hasn't said a bad word about her. Some attentive netizens pointed out the key issue. Every word seems to refer to his ex-girlfriend, but not a single word mentioned Sophia. The fans suddenly understood. Indeed, you really hit the nail on the head. Alexander has never directly talked about his relationship with Sophia. The entertainment industry is too murky. It's hard to distinguish between truth and falsehood. I should make a quick exit. There's a comment that stands out. It says, "One cannot only look at the surface of things. Isabella wants money. It doesn't necessarily mean she will squander it." Unfortunately, this comment was quickly reported and deleted by Sophia's fans. Actually, the situation isn't that complicated. I was diagnosed with leukemia before. I didn't want to burden Alexander, so I decided to leave. I didn't want our feelings to wear down day by day because of my illness. In the end, we would grow tired of each other. Even when Alexander was crying very sadly at that time, I still insisted on being the self-sacrificing one. I didn't reveal a word to him. My parents spent all their savings to treat me, but they passed away in a car accident on the way to get my medicine. I couldn't accept this fact for a while. I was in despair for a long time. I even thought about ending my own life. Later, while sorting through their belongings, I discovered my mother's diary. The diary detailed every day since I was diagnosed. My parents repeatedly wrote in the diary, "Our dear daughter is the strongest. She will surely overcome the illness, will definitely overcome the disease, live safely, live on." This is my parents' only expectation of me. I haven't given up hope. I have continued to fight against the illness for several years. The princess faces increasingly high medical expenses. She is already at her wit's end. Just then, Alexander was successful in his career. Some thoughts began to arise in my mind. After all, when we broke up back then, both my family and I spent money privately, building connections, helping pave the way for Alexander. If not, he was just an obscure little actor. Where would he find so many good opportunities? After preparing myself mentally to survive, I had no choice but to seek out the already famous Alexander. We were once lovers, but when we met again, the feelings we once had were long gone. Alexander was filled with resentment towards me. Very, very deep resentment. I don't want to explain anything. I just want to get some money from him. Some money that is trivial to him. Every day I have to face Alexander's sarcasm and intentional difficulties. But I don't take it to heart. As long as I can keep living, I'm already content with that. Looking back on the past, various emotions surge in my heart. My nose tingles, and tears can't help but fall. Alexander fired me. I suddenly lost my income. The targeted medication has been stopped for several days. My body has long been weak. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. I've let you down. I really can't hold on any longer. I miss you both so much. I want to be with you, for our family to reunite. I tidied up the rental place thoroughly. Suddenly, I remember the amulet Mom gave me is still with Alexander. That amulet was given to me by Mom after much hardship. She prayed and knelt many times. Even scraping my knees and bruising my forehead, I begged for it from the mountain. Before I brought up breaking up with him, I quietly gave him the amulet as my most precious gift. Isabella, I will cherish it well. We will be together and live this life peacefully. Now, look at Alexander. He doesn't deserve to hold the talisman my mother worked so hard to obtain. I want to take it back and bring it to see my mother, to tell her about the bad things Alexander has done. I walked to the outside of Alexander's dressing room. I could hear sweet laughter coming from inside now and then. As soon as I pushed the door open, Sophia's unpleasant face appeared before me. She said, "Why are you here again? Alexander has already fired you. Can you stop always bothering my boyfriend? Have some self-respect." Sophia was just smiling at Alexander, but as soon as she saw me, his expression changed immediately. He complained angrily, "Alexander, where is my peace of mind? I'll ask Alexander directly." Ignored Sophia. He seemed to not understand what I was saying. Or perhaps he didn't take my precious peace of mind seriously at all. Almost a minute passed. Only then did Alexander come back to his senses. "You mean that old yellow paper?" "It's not old paper. It's a keepsake left to me by my mother. I interrupted him immediately. With a firm tone, I said. Seeing how serious I was, Alexander frowned. Your parents aren't in Chicago. It only takes an hour by high-speed train to get back. Why keep a piece of paper as a memento? I was completely disappointed in Alexander. Thinking about it, for so long, he had never cared about my situation. If he had just asked a little, even if he asked a little, he would know that I no longer have a home. Forget it. I've long given up on explaining. Sophia suddenly remembered something. She interjected. Oh, I remember now. That old paper is with me. I thought it was just discarded paper nobody wanted. That's true. Alexander only gives me precious jewelry and luxury brand items, just an old piece of paper. I almost threw it away as scrap. I was furious. My eyes were bloodshot. I confronted Alexander with a question. Alexander looked bewildered. He scratched his head. Sophia, when did I give the peace and fortune? Before Alexander could finish his sentence, Sophia took a cherry from the fruit bowl on the table and stuffed it directly into Alexander's mouth. Continue. She stands up. She quickly walks in front of me. She pushes me out. Speak. All right. Isn't it just wanting a piece of trash? Just come out with me. Sophia was tossing and turning in the nanny van. Finally found the amulet of safety. I was just about to reach out to grab it when I saw her reveal a sly smile. Suddenly, some meat sauce was smeared on the amulet of safety. Before I could react, Sophia casually tossed it. The amulet of safety landed right in front of the stray dog raised by the crew. The dog immediately wagged its tail and started eating it eagerly. I was so angry I was shaking all over. My head felt like it was going to explode. I didn't care about the surprised looks from others. I rushed over madly to snatch the food from the dog. The stray dog was scared by me. It hurriedly gulped down a few bites of meat sauce and quickly ran away. I'm really useless. I only saved half of the amulet. Alexander rushed over after hearing the news. He was also stunned in place. Seeing me laugh and cry like a madman at half a talisman, he hesitated before coming over to persuade me. All right, stop messing around. It's just a piece of torn paper. It's all a scam. If you really like it, I'll find someone to buy you a whole box another day. Alexander was talking to himself over there. He wanted to reach out and help wipe my tears. At this moment, my tears and nose mucus mixed together. I could only vaguely make out what he looked like. I bit down hard on the hand Alexander reached out. He cried out in pain. Sophia rushed over. She kicked me down with one foot. Isabella, are you out of your mind? He actually fought a dog for food. And even bit Alexander, in my opinion. Someone like him should be sent to a mental hospital and locked up. This time, I finally found the root of the problem. Before Sophia could finish speaking, I rushed up and attacked her. The crew quickly ran over to pull us apart. I was like a mad beast. No matter how many people came, I would hit anyone I saw. I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel any pain either. Isabella has gone mad. Isabella is sick. She looks like she has rabies. Everyone quickly call the police. Subdue her. The scene was chaotic. I seemed to have misheard. Alexander's voice suddenly choked with emotion. He shouted, Isabella, Isabella, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. Quick, call an ambulance. Dial 911. I'm a bit confused. Why is Alexander crying so hard? From everyone's expressions, I realized my face was covered in blood. Oh, so that's how it is. I've had another episode. Blood keeps flowing from my facial features. I am amidst everyone's astonished voices. I just collapsed onto the ground. My eyes blankly stared at the clouds above. Those fiery red clouds. So beautiful. I'm so tired. I really can't hold on anymore. Slowly, I closed my eyes in a daze. I tightly clutched half a peace talisman in my hand. My ears were filled with chaotic noise. Amidst these sounds, there was a man's voice that sounded particularly familiar. His voice was hoarse. He cried heart-wrenchingly. It felt like a long time had passed. I opened my eyes again. What I saw was a pure white room. The smell of disinfectant in the hospital was strong. It made my head ache. Alexander was sitting by my bedside. He saw that I was awake. She soon revealed a happy smile. Where is the doctor? Hurry up, she is already awake. Quick, treat her. Use the best medicine. His expression at this moment reminds me of the knight who always cared for and protected me when I was young. It feels like going back to the past. I rubbed my eyes. I murmured softly, what a mess. I'm getting blurry vision at such a young age. Alexander stood behind the doctor, staring at me without blinking, not missing even the tiniest detail of my hair. Seeing the doctor's serious expressions, I already guessed a few things in my heart. The doctor said, "The situation is a bit complicated. We need to consult several experts together, then decide on a specific treatment plan." I nodded. I pretended not to understand their intentions. Actually, it's fine if they tell me directly. This is me now. I'm no longer afraid of death. They all don't believe it. But I am indeed happier than before. Alexander's face is pale. His chin is covered with stubble. It's obvious that he hasn't had a proper rest for several days. Isabella, why didn't you tell me? Hearing this, I feel a complex pleasure of finally having the truth revealed. Alexander, do you regret it now? Are you sad? All these years, you have always bullied me because I was powerless and impoverished. Now, I'm living such a miserable life. I'm almost at the end of my rope. Who are you pretending to be so affectionate for, Isabella? Don't worry. As long as we find the right bone marrow, you'll be better soon. I forced a weak smile at Alexander. I barely managed to squeeze out a feeble smile. There's no need to waste this money. I've already spent all the money. I don't want to continue the treatment. Alexander immediately shook his head. He gripped my hand tightly. His voice was choked with emotion. I'm sorry. I really did something wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I truly didn't realize. Can you forgive me? Let's get through the treatment together. Is that okay? Money is not a problem. 50,000, 500,000, 5 million, even 50 million. We can all afford it. Don't look at me like that. Isabella, say something. I'm lying in bed, watching Alexander, who usually doesn't say much, cry uncontrollably. I spent a lot of money. I suffered a lot. All to save me, someone who's already very ill. It's really not worth it. I pressed the call button. I asked the nurse to get Alexander out. His pleas are too noisy. They're also too worthless. The scenery outside the window changes day by day. Summer has gone. Autumn has also passed. Winter is coming soon. All the leaves have fallen. Only bare branches remain for terminally ill patients. The phrase will get better is unrealistic. I wake up every day and feel one step closer to death. Eventually, I spent less and less time awake. I might as well not open my eyes. I'm a bit sad. I couldn't say goodbye to Alexander properly. If I had known meeting again would be so painful, I would rather choose to never see him again. Alexander repeatedly said he regretted it. Actually, I also have some regrets. After all, life before death has indeed been a bit suffocating. This morning, Alexander suddenly pushed open the hospital door, shouted excitedly, Isabella, you are saved. You are saved. The suitable bone marrow has been found. You will recover soon. Don't leave me. I can't open my eyes. I feel nothing but irritability inside. Alexander, I've said it many times already. I don't want to see you. You are not good to me. I'm going to tell Mom. I won't undergo treatment anymore. Let it be this way. You are not anyone to me. You have no right to interfere with my decision. I don't know if it's a dream or reality. Alexander is kneeling by my bedside, crying very sadly. I am your knight. A knight dedicated to protecting the princess. Don't you remember? The knight no longer loves the princess. The princess has also decided to dissolve the contract with the knight. They will never meet again. I chose to leave just as winter is about to end. Everyone feels sorry for Isabella. She couldn't wait for spring to arrive. She passed away just as the bone marrow match showed progress. Yet I feel very happy, because next spring I will have my mom and dad by my side.